Hello and welcome back to the Sandbox tutorial. In today's episode, we are actually going to talk about lighting. Now, I know we've talked a lot about some of the tools and toys and how to make very basic walls and floors and doors and windows, but what will make and break any good build is your lighting. Lighting for effect comes into such a huge play. It can change a white wall and make it look yellow and warm. It really depends on the kind of lighting that you choose, and what that lighting is going to really determine on your style, how you want to build, how you want to handle things. Obviously, there's also external light, so having natural sunlight coming into your home can also feel really nice. But again, when it comes to night, you still gotta light up your place. And how you do it really just depends on what you're building and what style you want to go for. For today, I've gone ahead and just built a very simple home. There are no internal walls or anything, and I've only put a door, a window, and a gabled roof on us. We're just going to go in and take a look at lighting options. So in here it is kind of dark, and even if I keep adding in more windows, it's not really going to help the situation too much. So we need to add some lighting. So we hit tab, we go into our store, we can go into the interior and to lights. You have a lot of different options for lights. There are ceiling lamps, floor lamps, obviously light switches, table lamps, wall lamps, and other. And some of these lamps, like some of the ceiling lamps, you can put on the floor and walls. It just depends on the type of lighting that you're using. That'll give you those options. And of course, you could always take something that's only meant to be on the wall and use the transform tool to move it upside down. Totally up to you how you want to play, what kind of effect you're trying to generate, but a lot of different options. For most part, we do see a lot of ceiling lamps. There's only one of them that is actually recessed, or at least looks recessed lighting, which is the little puck lights right here. Otherwise, the rest of these all stick out from the wall. When I'm building stuff, I generally pick this one. This is a ceiling lamp you'll tend to find in garages. I tend to just pick this, just for the ease of when I'm building, I can have things lit up, and then I can replace the lighting later when I've built what I'm building. So I'm going to use that, and this is one of those that you can place on the floor, on the walls, or on the ceiling. And it's the reason why I like it so much is because it just lights up a room and allows me to build. Now, if I place it here, you can, if it's not connected to a light switch, you can go ahead and click on it and turn it on. By default, it is set at 4600 Kelvin temperature. It's a little bit cooler than your normal, like, warm light bulbs. It does look like it's warm, and that is because, as I mentioned earlier, it really determines the materials that you're looking at. If you pick warm woods and cool lighting, then they're not going to look so warm. Whereas if you pick warm lighting and warm woods, you will accentuate the warmth of the wood. So it really just determines what you're trying to build with what kind of colors you want to have. Generally speaking, though, when it comes to lighting, there is something to be said about fire. Part of our evolution, part of how we've lived our lives for so long, we tend to go from the outdoors and the sun bearing down on us into a home that had a hearth, had a fire, and that kind of fire is warm lighting. And so for a lot of people, being able to come inside and have warm lighting in their home can really do something for them. Whereas if you have cool lighting, it can do something entirely different. Like for instance, I like to have cooler lighting and definitely brighter lighting in my bathroom so I can see things a little bit better. Whereas the warmth of the lighting in my living room just gives it a nice homely feel. So we can change our style here. Traditionally, temperatures for warm are usually right around about 3200 or 2700. And as you can see, when you go 2700, things start to turn a little bit more red than orange. So I like to sit around 3200. That creates a nice feel. 3600 is okay too, but if you look at your light bulbs, you know, the warm ones, they tend to say 2700 or 3200, as opposed to if we were to bounce up our temperatures, like I said, default was 4200. We start to bounce this up into like 6500. You can see, I don't know, it's almost like causing the brick to kind of white out a little bit. Now we can adjust the brightness as well, and that will have a major play to how you're building something. So you could drop the brightness down, that way it's not so jarring to see, but I don't know, just kind of gives off those kind of color of like lights that kind of suck the soul out of you. There's a time and place for it, just most of the time not in the home. Again, I tend to use 3200. It's a good color for me. Now once you've got a light in place, you can use the hands tool, and if you look at something, you can duplicate it. When you duplicate it, you do duplicate all of its settings now. You could also have used the change style tool and hit Q to copy the style and paste it. So like if we changed the material on this, let's say we go gold, you can hit Q and paste. Now there are a lot of different styles. If you were to choose something that's on a chain, like for instance this light here, when you click it, you'll get the option to where you can drop it down. These have light bulbs in them, so we can change the light bulb. So you got a skinnier one, smaller one with the two filaments, and then you got your normal light bulbs as well. Doesn't change much, but very important to look at. Yeah. A lot of different options for lighting, and some of these that you think should extend down don't, like this one here. See, it's hanging on a hook, not on a chain. So this one does not extend down. Looks cool, but doesn't extend down. And these new lighting that they added, absolutely gorgeous. Now we'll say this, the more lighting you have on at one time in this game, it can cause glitches and make the screen look very glitchy, so be careful about how much light you add or how much light you turn on at one time. Now you do have floor lamps, or floor lamps. These are your big ones. They're all different sizes. You can't resize them, but you can change the styling of them. Oops. So you can use the prefabs, or you can kind of mess with it yourself. There we go. And then you have your table lamps, which are smaller lamps. They're meant to be on a table. Again, though, you can put them on the floor if you wanted to. Then we have wall lamps. You have different styles. I like this one here. This one goes in a corner. I think it's kind of cool. Create that like corner lighting, especially like a closet or something. A pretty neat style. I like these in bathrooms. Just kind of sit over a mirror. Whereas something like this you'll find in like your hallways. Nice bit of light. Some of these go directional like these. Some of these just kind of emit around, whereas these kind of really light up a room. And then in the other you have your candles, which do turn on. You just have to look at them and turn them on. Unlike House Flipper 1, they're not considered lights that can be controlled by a light switch. Still don't understand that one in House Flipper 1. A lot of options for lighting. Now some of these have pointed light now. So this one here originally was kind of lit around it, but now it directs the light properly, which I think looks really good. Exactly what I want to have when I'm looking at lighting. And then you have light switches. They don't have a whole lot in the game, and for the most part these aren't light switches we typically have in the United States. These kind of press lighting, not always a fan of. These kind of light switches I've never cared much for. This flick switch, not something I've used in real life. This here is probably closest to a light switch we would have in real life, but the plating on it's a little weird. But again, we can place this, and then we want to use the wiring tool, which is this tool here. And you can click and connect. If the light switch is off, they'll automatically turn off when you connect them. Turn it on, turn it off. So now we got it connected right. If you were to copy this, it's going to retain its current connections. You can remove those connections or remove it from the group by clicking R, and then drag it to a new switch. If you are trying to connect this to something that's already connected, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So in that case it works. But if we were to take this and connect it from there to here, it now updates this light switch to be the same as this light switch. So always, always, always start from the switch to the light, unless you are trying to add the switch to a light switch group already. And then you can use R to reset it. And again, that's the basics of lighting. You know, light up your places to your heart's delight. Again, as I said at the very beginning, I tend to start every building with the very basic these lighting here, just so that I can see what I'm doing when I'm painting or when I'm doing styling, and I know what kind of color that I'm dealing with, as opposed to changing the lighting later, and then that changes the whole scope of my house, and then I have to redo everything. So with that, I hope you enjoyed and found it useful, and I will talk at you all next time.